Welcome to the RoadCast, a podcast by EAPA. I'm Carsten Karcher, your host and the Secretary General of EAPA, the European Asphalt Pavement Association. Today, I'm glad to have my longtime colleague and the chairman of the EAPA Technical Committee, Knut Johansen, a well-known expert in the asphalt sector with me. Welcome, Knut.
Thank you.
So you are one of the faces of EAPA, of the association, being the chairman of this technical committee. So we are interested in your personal career. What did you do to become who you are and to get to this position? So maybe you introduce yourself a bit to the listeners.
Sure. So I just looked it up yesterday. I started by studying civil engineering in the north of Germany, and I graduated in 1999. And I started working in a private laboratory for road construction, and where I learned all the road construction stuff about materials, about pavements, about design and all this. And I worked there for a little bit more than 10 years in different positions and in different locations. And so I was able to learn all the stuff around road construction in practice by being on the site and putting it in my hand, and so I really got a hands-on feeling for road construction. After that, I went to the university for 2 years and started my PhD there, which in fact took me, I think, 13 years altogether.
At the end.
In the end, to finish it. Anyway, I made it in the end, and then after 10, 12 years, in the private sector, I changed and I started working for a big construction company, which is called now Vinci Construction. And you can say that the technical director for it in Germany. So I got to take care of all the technical things, research and development, and the stuff around it, which is also sustainability nowadays. Quite interesting topics now.
Very, very interesting. Nice career. So really practical from the very beginning. That's important, I would say, if you come to these positions, then to know what the material is, to have it had in your hands.
It helps, yeah. So it's I think it's still a very practical job, and road construction still is about how to do things, and it's not always rocket science. So it's more like how to do things in the best way. So best practice is a very important topic, and it really helps if you know how it works outside, how a construction site works, how material feels. So I had the chance at the laboratory to mix it on my own and get a feeling what happens if there's a little bit too much of this or too less of that. And so I think I'm still able sometimes to see it when I'm outside. And well, I've got a kind of feeling for it. And that's still important, I think, for road construction, as it's very practical, very, very practical. We do a lot of calculations nowadays, a lot of new methods which require software use, and still it's a practical job.
A lot of experience needed, and the knowledge of the engineers also, very important part.
Yeah, that's an important topic, I think. So nowadays everybody relies on software solutions, and I think that the engineering knowledge, or this engineering feeling, is still extremely important. So sometimes you get a result and you think, no, this can't be, and then you prove it and it turns out not to be right. So this feeling you have as an engineer is still extremely important to me.
Yeah, it's important. We have a lot of tools that help us today, but you have to know how to apply the tools. A fool with a tool is still a fool.
Yeah.
So the experience and the knowledge is very important. Yeah.
You have to verify what you get on results from software solutions, and that's it.
Yeah, true. So now we have the best person here to explain us what is asphalt. So you already started to take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that. So maybe someone out there does not know what asphalt is.
Yeah.
So we have you. Please help us with.
Yeah.
This.
So to start with, I think it's the smartest construction product we've got in the world. Yeah. So it's really the smartest one. When you look at a construction with different materials, there's always a problem with shrinkage due to temperatures. And asphalt is the only product in the world which is able to be used without any joints for 10 kilometers. And this is a very, very special product. So it's due to the fact that asphalt can relax. So
flexible.
Yeah, it's flexible. It can relax. So whenever there's a pressure from the outside, asphalt is very smart and just moves away. So, and that makes it possible to be used for 10 kilometers without any joint, because whenever there's a pressure due to temperature, shrinkage or whatever, then the asphalt just moves away and the stress gets away. And that's a very clever method, I think, also for your life.
But what is the receipt of an asphalt?
Yeah, so to make that possible, it's not only about moving away, otherwise we would only have ruts on the road whenever a truck passes by. So it's a mixture. We've got two main materials. The one is the black material, which is bitumen, which is a product coming out of a refinery from crude oil, and which gives us the flexibility, the relaxation behavior. So all the smart things come from the bitumen.
Sticking material, is it?
Yeah, that's the one that sticks, so that glues it all together, yeah. And what are we gluing together? That is the aggregates, the stones, which gives it, the ability to withstand traffic, to be even for a long time. And so we mix two materials, and that's the interesting point and the complex point, to find the right recipe for it. And so we have to be very precise in the recipes. Believe it or not, I think we've got in Germany around 1,000 different recipes in our mixing plants. So it's not like, so we have 3 types of asphalt. No, we've got thousands of it. For every purpose, there's a special recipe. It depends on the source of your stones, where do they come from. Also, the bitumen has different qualities. We can modify bitumen, and so we need a special type of asphalt for every application.
So it's a difference if you build, especially when you are coming from Germany, an international company, but you're working mostly in Germany. So when you give an example from that region or from that part of Europe, if you go to the Black Forest, which is mountains, not so high, but middle-sized mountains, you have a totally different receipt as when you come to the Rhine River of Rhine Valley, which is just 15 or 20 kilometers away, but you have different receipts because you have different temperature impacts on both roads. It's the same road, maybe with the same loading of trucks on vehicles, or so the same traffic impact, but it's a different receipt.
Yeah.
And when you switch this system to, let's say, to the northern part of Germany, you might have different aggregates, and different aggregates have different properties. And then again, you have to have a special receipt.
Yeah, we have different climate zones, you can say, in Europe, so starting in Norway in the north, where it could be very cold in winter times, down to Spain, for example, where we have totally different temperatures. So that's one point. So we have to adapt the asphalt to the temperatures outside, to the expected temperatures. The other one is traffic, of course. So we have high traffic roads where rutting resistance is of paramount importance. And there are other roads or ways outside in rural areas where it's more the UV light, which poses a problem. So we have to make a different type of conception there. All these things come together. Then you mentioned the different sources of stones. So when I'm in the north of Germany, I could probably get a stone from Scandinavia by ship. And when I'm in the south of Germany, I get the stone from the mountains in Germany. And so that's always a different recipe, and it has to be adapted to the special purpose. Yeah, and that is a daily work we have. So we have 3 laboratories, for example, and which are doing type tests every day. So we have to find a new recipe every day.
And then you have different applications. So the asphalts have to be waterproof. They need to be flexible or even porous to accommodate noise or water.
Yep.
So there's also void contents included in asphalt, in compacted asphalt. So, and even you can even have asphalts for housings as floors. So asphalt is a widespread product, and maybe not everybody is aware of that.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating thing about it. So let's start with the open mixes. So mixes which have a lot of voids, like 20-25% are voids. So whenever water is coming down on the road, it just permeates through the pavement, and it just goes away immediately. So these pavements are known to be have very low noise. So It's something we do when we cross the city with the highways, for example. Then we use an open graded mix so that the road noise does not come to the people living there. So that's a very interesting point for me, because there's no other product at the moment which is able to get these amounts of noise reduction. And then you mentioned the other part, which is the waterproof type of asphalt, which is called a mastic asphalt, which has no voids at all. And so which could be used for whenever we have the need to drain the water on the surface.
Bridges, for example.
Bridges, for example. There are other applications like in container terminals where there are hazardous goods, for example, and all this stuff. So we've got the whole range between 25% of voids and 0% of voids, and we have to find the right amount for each application.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience needed in the knowledge of the engineers, also of the practitioners. And of course, you mentioned the laboratory. So the laboratory is very important to test before you bring it on the road or on the street to test these materials.
Yeah, we have an industrial production. We have plants, really big plants, quite sophisticated nowadays, specialized on recycling, probably most for the moment. And so we normally have a facility production control at every mixing plant. So there are small laboratories also at the plants. And we have in Germany around altogether 500 plants, something like that. So there's a laboratory at mostly every plant in Germany, which controls the production the moment it is done. So we have a very close look at the quality. Whenever we make a new mix in the morning, we would start testing it, looking for the void content, for example, and see that it really has the quality the client wants to have. So that's quite a lot of testing we're doing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a high level of quality control.
Yeah, very, very high level. And so we have a lot of people working for that, working on that. And and it's necessary, yeah. We have to adapt a lot.
We have all this information on the EAPA website. So what is asphalt? What are the different types of asphalt? How asphalt is produced? So there's a lot of literature available on the website if people want to explore more about this. That brings us directly to the work that we do. Why is EAPA? Why does EAPA have committees, a technical committee? So this is one of the, I would say, the oldest committee in EAPA. So EAPA was founded 50 years ago. So it was one of the purpose to bring the technical knowledge of Europe together in one place, to collect it, to exchange it. And you are the chairman of this since many years now, since six or 7 years, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can explain a little bit about the work when we meet, or when you and the experts, European experts, meet.
Well, yeah, I'm now over 50 years old, but I wasn't there when the TC started, when the technical committee started. But
no, not.
Yeah, no, in fact not. Although I look like it, but no. So as you said, I started, I think, in the technical committee about 10 years ago. Since a long time, asphalt is not a national product anymore. So we have European standardization on this product for many years now, and which is mandatory. So the real changes are made on the European level. So we have European standardization committees who work on that topic, and whenever they publish a new standard, that's the law for everybody in Europe. So that helps us, of course, because we are all speaking the same language. So it enables us to talk about it, as we are all using the same terms, the same technical terms. So this is our common language, you can say, the standards. And on the other hand, we're not able to change that in a big amount in Germany itself. So it's not a national topic anymore. We're not able to change a lot. We can identify the types of asphalt we need in Germany, but it's like a toolbox. We can only take the tools which are in the standardization box of Europe. We're not able to do something apart from that. So, and that is why Europe is so important for us. So we need to be represented at the European level to get heard. To get heard on the European level is extremely important, as the technical specifications are all defined on the European level.
On the product standards. So asphalt is a product, and to have this free movement of goods or also products in Europe, there has to be a common language for these goods. So that's the standardization. and that the French expert on asphalt knows what the German expert on asphalt is talking about. So it's the same characteristics, the same properties that are checked.
Yeah.
But there are some specialities in the national countries. You said you are not able to change so much in Germany. The same would the Frenchman say, or the Belgian expert. But this gives us the possibility to grow together and to develop the material also together and speak the same language, which is good.
Yeah, and exchange knowledge. So exchange experiences. Physics are the same all over the world. So we can exchange about what was good, what was bad, what didn't work out in the end. And so this is what we're doing in the technical committee, in fact. So we're talking about things which were good, things which could be improved. And these European standards make it possible. So we're speaking the same language. Whenever I talk about a technical term, a technical specification, my colleague in Poland and my colleague in Spain know exactly what I'm talking about. They've got the same testing methods, they've got the same regulations about it. So that really helps us improving the product on a European level.
Coming back to the technical committee of EAPA, what is the priorities that you have for, let's say, this year or in the recent years for the not everyday work? We are not working every day in this technical committee because it's volunteered work in these committees from our members. But what is the priorities?
As I mentioned already, in Asphalt, the topic recycling has always been, for the last decades, a big topic. So when I started working in Asphalt, we already talked about recycling or reuse, which is the better term for it. And so that always has been a big topic. And nowadays, the equipment, over the last decades, the equipment was optimized in a way to do optimum reuse. So we've got plants now which are able to reuse theoretically up to 100% of asphalt. And so this is still a big topic. So we just recently issued papers about the reuse because we have to take everybody by the hand and show them how these new technologies work and convince them that it makes sense and that it's still a good product. So often there are concerns about the quality of the product when we reuse so much. It's like having a second-hand product, which is not true. But so we have to convince the people that's something we have to do. We have to take them by the hand, bring them there, show them how it works, tell them how it works, and convince them. And so that has been a big part of our work in the last years. So issuing papers about reuse.
May I jump in this, because you were talking about the reuse of asphalt, which is so important. Bringing the link to the specification you just mentioned before. So the properties, the characteristics of an asphalt is always the same, no matter how much of already used asphalt we put in. If it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%, the properties of the material that comes out of this receipt have to be the same all the time.
Yeah, and they are the same.
They are.
This is what we're doing in the laboratory. So we adapt the mix until we get exactly the same quality as before. So otherwise we wouldn't deliver that product. The main task is to maintain that level of quality on an industrial side, in an industrial scale. And that is why we have the laboratories at every plant. So to make sure that the quality is constant over time and that we get the same results. But that's only the one point. So we are sure about that. We know that, but we have to convince our client too.
Yeah, we have to communicate this.
This is a very important topic and task of the technical committee, to inform about that, to show them what were the proceedings in the last year on that topic, and to give the information out to everybody. This is extremely important for us.
And things have developed. So I remember when, in my time at university, we had my predecessors at university, they started doing reuse, and at that time it was called recycling, in the 1980s in Germany. And that was the beginning. And it is there since many, many years. We increased the amount of reclaimed asphalt we can put into new asphalt over the decades. And we are, as you mentioned, we can even put 100% in if we would have all this material available, this reclaimed material available. So there was a development, but still we have new technologies to be applied at the asphalt mixing plants. So there's a steady development, and we talk about this, we publish this, we exchange information on the European level about this. So the aim is to bring the industry in Europe on the same level regarding sustainability.
Yeah, and we made a lot of progress in the last years. So when you look at a mixing plant today, and we just recently built 2 new mixing plants, and which are totally different of what we had 20 years ago. So very new technique and extremely complex. So, of course, not everybody knows about the progress we made. Sometimes they doubt that we can maintain the same quality with even higher amounts of reused asphalt. But this is the task to show them how it works, to bring them a picture of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and to convince them that it works.
Yeah. When you talk about them, it's the road authorities.
That's mainly the client we have. So that's, of course, mainly the road authorities. I don't know how much, but probably more than 90% of the market is road authorities, of course. But there are also private clients like airports, like industrial sites, whatever. So, yeah, but mainly the road authority.
Yeah, and also the municipal road authorities from cities, which are a very important part of it. It's not only highways and state roads, it's also cities and so on.
There are a lot of motivated people, of course, even in the municipalities and the cities, and which really want to be on the top of the information, but which is difficult for them normally because they normally don't have the chance to attend all the big meetings we've got. It's expensive to go there sometimes, and so they really want to be on the top. So I think they really appreciate when there's information like on the EAPA website, which they can use to get the latest knowledge about.
What other topics do you have in the?
Yeah, so as I said, circular economy or reuse is a big topic. It still is a big topic, but there are also new topics now, like the sustainability is the big topic for the moment. Everybody talks about sustainability, of course, and well, in our branch, we normally say we were sustainable all the time, but now we're talking about it. So, of course, we have to address that topic too. So we have to also improve ourselves in reducing CO2, of course. But that's not the only point. So only talking about CO2 at the moment will be a problem in the future as we optimize in the wrong direction probably. There are more topics like land use, water use, and all this stuff. So we are actually starting talking about the impacts on our environment a lot. So this is a very, very big topic, yes.
And this is, I missed to mention that we, of course, EAPA does not only have the technical committee, we also have an environmental committee. Health and safety is also very important. We have the modern and digital technologies, which is the Asphalt 4.0 committee. We have a communication committee, and I'm happy to invite the chairman of these committees also in other podcast episodes. So this is more that what you say, the sustainability when it comes to environmental topics. That's more the HSE committee, Health, Safety and Environment Committee. But coming back to the TC, to the technical committee, also linked to sustainability is the low temperature asphalt or warm-mix asphalt, as we call it on the European level.
That's a good example for the topics coming together. So you mentioned the HSE committee, which is also super interesting at the moment. So there are a lot of topics which were brought up by the HSE guys. So like you said, temperature reduction, which is due to the health of the workers, which we want to improve. And that's also a topic for the technical committee, as to reduce emissions from asphalt. One of the main technical measures is to reduce the temperature. So when we reduce the temperature, there are lower emissions of everything. And to make that possible, we need the technical guys to install processes for that, how to make it possible. Whenever we reduce the temperature, the people on site having to pave the asphalt getting a problem. So the colder it is, the more difficult it is to pave it and compact it. And so we have to install technical processes to make that possible. And that's the original work of the technical committee then. So we talk about the processes, there are different ones, and to make this emission reduction possible in the end.
So it's a different procedure to produce a 1 ton of asphalt or produce asphalt for a pavement or for a highway, but it's a different process. So we try to reduce energy consumption and also reduce the emissions, all related emissions, CO2 and others, with this new type of product. But at the end, it's still black. the procedure at the asphalt mixing plant is different.
Yeah, it's still asphalt. So
Exactly.
It's still the same. I would say it's still the same product, but we have a different process in it, which is important. So yes, you're right. It's a kind of a different or an adapted product. Yeah. And as you can imagine, when we decrease the temperature, of course, we need less fuel to do that. So, of course, we save CO2 in that, at least scope 1 and 2 emissions getting less. So that is important for us too, as we have to deal with the fuel consumption. It's an expensive part of the production, of course, in terms of money and in terms of CO2. Both is important to us. We get lower CO2 emissions. But on the other hand, outside, we do something good for the workers' health and safety, and this is also important to us. That's even more important.
We take care of our workers. To produce asphalt, you need high temperatures, so 160 to 180 degrees Celsius to mix the different components, and then you bring it with this temperature to the job site, and then it will be laid and compacted. And the compaction is only possible with high temperatures, and then when it cools, it gets the service temperature, let's say the environment temperature, and then it can be used. And this processes this process is somehow looked in and changed to still have the flexibility to compact the material, but at lower temperatures.
Right. So
that's a principle. So we save energy in the whole process.
Yeah. So asphalt is a product you cannot transport for a long time.
Yeah.
Due to that fact. So we heat it up in the mixing plant, and then we have to bring it out to the site. And so transport distances between the plant and construction site should not be longer than half an hour or something. So that's also a reason why we have more than 500 mixing plants in Germany all over the place. Yes, so to be near to every construction site you could imagine. And as you said, when we decrease the temperature, we might face a problem when compacting it. And asphalt only works when it's compacted sufficiently. And so that's why we install that technical process to enable compaction even at lower temperatures. So that's, for the quality of the product, is of super high importance for us.
Coming from these technologies, the warm mix asphalt, we already produced several documents, position papers, technical briefings in the technical committee, which are available on the EAPA website also. And we also created one which is addressed to the road authorities to give them more insight on this new technology, because they are a little bit hesitating to use it at the moment. And we want to improve that, of course, because it will be beneficial for all of us.
When I look back 10 years when I started in TC, I still remember the first meeting. And it started by the chairman asking everybody about the progress in the different countries of warm mix asphalt. And I was sitting there as the German representative, and I said, well, nothing. So it was really like that. We had 0 tons of that, maybe in a laboratory, maybe a small test track or something, but there was no industrial production of warm mix in Germany at that moment. And so I think that's a good example. So in some countries like in France or Norway, we actually had around 25% of the market. So 25% of the asphalt produced in these countries are produced with warm mix technologies. In Germany now we're facing a big task as we're actually changing our main regulation, and our plan is to get 100% warm mix in a time span of not more than 2 years. So this is really a big task. Yeah. So, and we have to convince, of course, the client, as you said. The client has to be convinced that this is possible at the same quality level. And so it's extremely important that we get the information out to them, that they see what are we doing. They want to discuss with that about the right process. There are different ones, I told you. And so we have to get into a discussion with them, with our client. What is the best process for that application? And for that, they need the knowledge. So it's extremely important for us that they have the knowledge so that they can discuss with us about it and that we can maintain the same quality level as before.
Yeah, very important. Have the topics in the technical committee, so we just touched 2 of the main topics, but have the topics changed a lot in the recent years? So you mentioned your first meeting was 10 years ago. Warm mix asphalt was already on the agenda at that time. Yeah, so
at least in Europe. Yeah.
At least in Europe, yeah. And the US is very strong in warm mix asphalt, for example. And it's developing all over the world, so that will be the material of the future, surely. But what other topics have been in the recent years? Do you remember something where we discussed a lot and which is not of any importance today because we implemented it somehow?
Well, not really. It's there are always, I would say, waves or periods. Everything comes back after 20 years, you can say.
Sure.
And that's the interesting thing of working with the EAPA, because the topics are, we're normally the first to address them. And so in the national committees, it normally takes 5 to 10 years until we talk about the same topics. As I mentioned, 10 years ago, we were already talking about warm mix when I haven't heard about it before. So, and now 10 years later, we're implementing that in the German regulations. So EAPA is always a little bit in front and a little bit at the top of development, you can say, because of course we get all the information from all the different countries, from our members, and so we can identify the hot topics. And so this is really the important point, that we're talking about things which will be a national topic 5 to 10 years later. So maybe I can give another example.
Yeah, of course.
So for the moment, we're starting talking about resilience, which is obviously the new hot topic for the future. So, which means resilience is the ability of the road infrastructure to withstand disruptive
climate change, for example.
Yeah, the climate change. So things which could pose a risk to the industry, to the infrastructure and everything. So we're starting talking about resilience, defining it, and trying to find ways of dealing with it, making the road and such infrastructure more resilient. In Germany, nobody has heard about the topic so far. Yeah? So I'm sure that in 5 to 10 years, we will talk about resilience in Germany too. And I'm very happy that we are addressing the topic now in Europe.
Yeah, that's a very hot topic in Brussels, especially because it's not only about the resilience. Resilience has many, many aspects, and it's not only the resilience of a product or a road. In our case, it's also about the resilience of the industry for external impacts, like disruptive product chains. Yeah, so the delivery of the raw materials. We have some crises in Europe, so this was not helpful.
Yeah.
And the energy, where do we get the energy? Where do we get the fuel from?
Yeah.
Where, if we become more electric, less fuel will be needed, and the oil production process. Also, you mentioned before, the bitumen comes out of this process. So what will happen in the future? Will there still be enough binder to produce asphalt?
Yeah, that's a good example, because when the war in Ukraine started, we were facing a problem with crude oil delivery. So you know that whole topic changed. So we had different ways of getting the crude oil from. And so that was also a question for us, as the bitumen is directly produced out of crude oil. So we were facing major changes in terms of, do we get enough of it? Do we still get enough of it in the future? Will the quality of it change? So whenever we get a new source of crude oil, also the bitumen quality changes. And that's also part of the resilience, being resilient to these changes. Yeah,
the quality should be the same, because there are also specifications. But it's a natural product, like the aggregates. So we have to bring it together on the highest level of quality in the asphalt mix at the end. So so the resilience is really a hot topic that we have now, and EAPA has prepared a document on this. It's just been released. It's on the EAPA website to have a view on the different aspects of resilience of the asphalt industry, also on the product, of course. So this is at the Brussels level. It's the hot topic now. Sustainability is already there. Resilience is the upcoming one.
So that's one part of the work. So we're informing about technical things or innovations or directions. But I think there's another important thing. We also publish position papers. So we think that we should address the rest of the branch with a position. So we are discussing that in our groups and our committees, and we find a common position about technical topics like resilience, and we publish position papers to show everybody this is our way of thinking about this topic, and we think it should develop in that direction. So I also think that is very, very important to show the branch where is a possible way to address these problems in the future.
Well said, well said. I'm really glad that you joined me this morning for this exchange, very interesting exchange. And I would say asphalt is still black, yeah, since many, many decades. But it's not, when you look into it, it's not the same product as it has been before. It's highly engineered product. Should never be seen as a waste or so. We can reuse it. It's a product that we can use several cycles. So that's a key takeaway from today for me.
And it's the smartest product we know.
That's the other thing. So thank you so much, Knut, for being with us. It was very entertaining, and thank you for these interesting insights about the industry. Dear listeners, check out the description and the show notes to find more relevant links and additional information from this episode. Make sure you follow us on social media and subscribe to the EAPA newsletter. Stay curious and keep paving the way for a brighter future. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you again, Knut.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
And all the best for you and the others, of course.